Hi, you've been asked to do a marketing plan for a marketing project, many of you in the course Introduction to Business. So what I want you to do here today is to walk you through kind of the first part of the marketing plan and talk about how you introduce your product or service in this type of a document. So let's take a look at our agenda for today. First, we're going to talk about what should be in your project or your plan. And the elements we're going to cover today is first a description of your features, a description of your benefits, and there is a difference, your customer profile, notice I didn't say target, but profile, and we'll talk about how that's different, and how you gather this information together to discuss, explain, and sell your competitive advantage. Bottom line, when you're doing a marketing plan, what you're trying to do is explain to someone what you're selling, why people should care, and specifically why one particular profile of customer should care. So let's get started. What should be in your project? Basically what I just described, but here's a list in detail. The first thing that you want to do is describe your product or service in detail. In this video, I'm going to touch on the service, and I'm going to go into a bit more detail about the product so that you can see some visuals, which is a bit different or difficult to do for a service. We're going to describe that product or service in terms of its features, which is very different from its core benefits. If you're interested in learning more about core benefits versus other types of benefits, I will refer in the description of this video to other videos that you can view to get that sense. You want to identify your one customer. Now this does sound counterintuitive since you want to sell a lot of your product or service, right? But we're going to look at what focusing your message can do to really developing your point of difference. And this should say difference, shame on me. To clarify your point of difference, what makes you different? And then write it up in plan form. So describe your service. Let's take an example. An example that we used in my Intro to Business class recently is that of having a taxi. All right, so let's say you are an independent taxi owner. So first of all, what do? And the way that my class described it is people pay me to take them from point A to point B, right? I take you from one place to the next, you pay me money, all right? Who am I taking from one place to another? Someone who needs to go there, right? But I want to define it a little bit more than that. What is my point A to point B? Do I hang out at the airport and take people to hotels? Do I hang out at hotels and take people to points of attraction? All right. And when do I offer my services? Am I primarily during high tourist times? Do I work during conventions? So it's important in your description of a service to talk about and start to define the area or your niche in your business. How often? Am I a Monday through Friday kind of a service? Am I strictly on Saturdays and Sundays? That will depend on some of the questions that I've answered previously. And how does someone order my service? Do they only find out about me because they see me? Can they find me online? But not just find me online, but can they book my service online? Is that possible? And in one of my marketing classes, we are doing an online web component where web and ordering online will definitely be one of the channels that a customer can order my service. And where are you located? Now, it might not matter where your actual offices are located. What people want to know is, what is your base of operations? Okay, and that means, are you working primarily in the city? Are you a city-to-city kind of taxi driver? Are you taking people from the suburbs to the city and back? Are you working just in the suburbs? So despite where your offices are located, what people are looking for is, well, where are you? Where do you fit within what I understand of where I live? All right, so these are some features of describing a service. All right. Now we'll look at product next, as I know particularly in my Introduction to Business class we did and will go in great detail about features around a service, which is what their website is going to be about. But I want to take an example of a product, which is probably a more common example, to walk through some of this with you online today. So let's talk about product features. All right. Product features talk about what the person is getting for their money. All right, we're going to use Campbell's Soup at Hand. If you're describing this product, you might first describe, say it's from Campbell's. That becomes important. You'll notice it can be heated in the container. Okay, there's a lid that is spill-proof. It's contoured for the shape of your hand. All right, these are all great descriptions of the feature. You might talk about the variety of flavors that are available. You might talk about the nutrients. If I could spell, you might talk about the nutrients. You can certainly talk about the fact that Campbell's Soup at Hand supports schools. You can talk about how the container fits into the cup holder in a car. And you can talk about the fact that you can either buy it individually or you can buy it in packs of 8, 3, 6, 12, whatever packs that you have. All of these things, that it's a microwavable container, etc., are all product features. What am I getting for my money? Right? That is not the same as benefits. So here are some of the features. This says insulated cup, even though you can't read it. This says contoured to the hand, and this says, a sippable cap, essentially. These are the things you're getting for your money, but that's not the benefit. This is why the consumer cares. And you notice I say cares here. This talks about more than just the physical exchange of money. All right, let's look at this woman. It's sippable soup anytime, anywhere. So this ad is telling me the benefit of Campbell's Soup at Hand is that this in-demand mom who loves her kids, and kids playing soccer, can take care of herself at the same time that she takes care of everything else. Because this consumer knows that on a daily basis, she needs to be super mom. Right? How many of us haven't felt that way, super mom or super dad? So the benefit of this product is you can take care of yourself and never slow down. That is a very different conversation than red plastic molded microwavable cup. All right, these are the core values, what the consumer cares about, that the way they behave, the way that they would choose one product or another because of what their heart is telling them and not just their pocketbook. All right, so these are benefits. These are benefits. All right, so who is this customer? Who is this customer that would care about the benefits? Okay, well, I mentioned, it might be counterintuitive, but often, particularly entrepreneurs will say, oh my gosh, I can't leave anyone out. 18 plus, any adult. Well, you actually diminish your chances to attract a customer that way because you can't talk to 18 plus. What message do you give them? You need to know your customer. If you're the taxi driver, I want to know the person I pick up at the airport who flies in and out of New York one day at a time, 3 or 4 times a year, loves to listen to music on the way into the airport, hates to listen to music on the way back because she's exhausted. And yes, that was me. And that taxi driver got my business every time because he knew me as a customer. All right, my habits. So let's think about this. The first thing you do need to understand is the facts. And you're trying to get to, again, your one customer. All right, so 18 plus, 24 to 34, that's not one person. Okay, you want to know where this person lives. You want to know about how much money they make, and you want to know what gender they are. These are just some examples of demographics. All right, this is a good place to start, but it's nowhere near where you need to end in your customer profile. You also want to know what their preferences are, as I mentioned in the taxi example, right? What do they read? What do they eat? What do they watch on TV? What movies do they go to? And what do they do? All right? How does he or she behave? Do they want to fit in? All right, if you look at the iPhone commercials right now, the iPhone 5 against the Samsung Galaxy, they're portraying iPhone 5 users as kind of almost lemmings that are all trying to fit in and get the new iPhone. But Samsung users are going a different way. They're ahead of the curve and they don't care if people know that or not. They just are, right? Are you trying to get ahead in business? Do you value family? Are you an impulse shopper? Are you going through a life change? For example, did you just have children? Are your children leaving the house? Have you retired? Are you in the middle of your career? These are all questions to ask about your customer as you put together a profile. Again, if you're interested, customer profile videos are coming, and I will make sure to mention them in the video description so that you can learn more. But let's use our example of this woman for a customer profile. I'm going to name her Sally. All right. Sally, and it's important to name your customer in your customer profile. Sally has school-age kids, right? They play soccer. All right. I'm just going to choose soccer. It's one of the more popular sports right now for kids. My kids actually play lacrosse. I'm in about the same age range as Sally. I'm at about the same age, or at least as far as you know, I'm about the same age as Sally. And the life stage, look at what she's juggling. She is in demand, and we're not talking about her career here. We're not talking about corner office. We're talking about office. We're talking about splitting her time with the kids. We're talking about soccer. We're talking about her personal interests. She is highly in demand, and she needs the sippable soup anytime, anywhere, because she is in one of the busiest stages of her life. That's not how you spell busiest. Busiest stages of her life. All right, so Sally, looking like soccer, her clothes, she is in a higher income bracket than average, okay? She's wearing fall clothes, so she's somewhere, let's say she's in the Midwest, all right, where there's, warm weather and soup all makes sense. She likes to read Good Housekeeping, and she likes to read Working Mother magazine. She watches Saturday Night Live when the kids go to bed. And she has an iPhone. Now we're starting to put together a customer profile. Right, so this is the kind of information you're trying to gather. And I will, in that link, include a worksheet that will help you think through some of the questions you could be asking yourself. Now let's gather some of this together into a competitive advantage. All right. Now this is a typical definition of competitive advantage that I give my students. It is not the technical definition, but it's the essence, and that is the competitive advantage is the reason someone would buy your product or service over the competitors on a regular basis. All right. So this is the reason why someone, notice it says one, not people, someone would buy your product or service over the competitors on a regular basis. Or you might get someone to switch on a coupon, but that's not what we're talking about here. All right? And the answer to your competitive advantage is a combination of features, benefits, and your customer profile, not just who they are, but your knowledge of them. And of course, you can't underplay brand. You notice I'm using a red marker here because red is a key component of Campbell's soup brands. When you see the red can, you know it's Campbell's, right? And Campbell's comes with a lot of notions of warmth, right? Family, tradition, history. But this new product of theirs is also very modern. All right? It's on the go. It's convenience. So you get all the brand of Campbell's with the reasons that Sally would buy Campbell's Soup at Hand today. And it's reinforced by what are called augmented values, like caring for schools, caring for kids. So all this together, the reason someone would buy Campbell's, it's because it's Campbell's, it's the soup you know, in the flavors you love, on the go, so you never miss a beat. That's the competitive advantage for Campbell's Soup at Hand. And you want to try and distilled down to that kind of a comment in your projects. All right. So one way to really understand how to talk about your competitive advantage is to look at one or two close competitors. All right, what kind of products or services do they have that are similar? And how do you position your products against it? So there might be quick ways to get Progresso soup. All right, but how is Soup at Hand and blue is, by the way, Progresso's brand color. How does Campbell's compare, and specifically Soup at Hand, compare to Progresso? All right, and how would you convince a consumer to purchase your product or service over theirs? So in this case, over Progresso's, I'm going to talk about the convenience, and I'm going to talk about the features. Okay. So I've done a lot of talking and scribbling, and that's all wonderful as you're giving a presentation. But in particular, as you're writing a plan, there is a structure that is associated with the plan, and I will, as I create the next video, kind of link that structure into the description. But just like any good piece of professional communication, you want to start with an introduction, right? You want to tell people what your purpose is for this service or product. You want to focus each paragraph on one idea at a time as you develop through your features, benefits, and customer and competitive advantage, right? So each one might have multiple paragraphs, but you really want to watch that transition. And you want to end with a conclusion. This is your final chance, your call to action. All right, after reading your document, what do you want the reader of that plan to do? Do you need money? Are you trying to create a website? So is this going to help them develop that site? Are you trying to get someone to buy your product? Are you trying to get a grocery store to carry it? So you want to really think through that conclusion in terms of a call for action. And as always, every opportunity to create a piece of professional communication is also an opportunity to create credibility or destroy it. Proofread your work. Have someone else look at it because it will set you apart. It's one way to make sure your message gets through. Thank you for spending time with me. I hope you enjoy the project.